a day, 365 days a year. This is Salaam.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Welcome to your weekly current affairs show, Let's Talk, with me, Hameed Chowdhury, and my co-host Akeel Hameed. It's live on Salaam Radio 106.2 FM, and also for our Luton listeners, Assalamu alaikum. It's for you guys, it's on Inspire FM in Luton. We're always on air 24/7, 365, uniting all communities. You can find us online on salamradio.co.uk and also on many social media outlets, Salaam Radio, as well as YouTube and iOS and Android. Inshallah, please do get involved in our conversations today. You can get involved by calling us on 01733 602 133. That's 01733 602 133, or you can text and WhatsApp us on 07745 278 978. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
How are you? That wasn't too bad. It's been a while since I've sang this.
You were great.
I'm
not saying this because this is your last show of the year.
Thanks for pointing that out.
Just get it out there early doors.
It's been a while since I've been on the show, actually.
Well, likewise.
Oh, of course, yeah. You haven't been doing it without me.
Can't
we've been off. Actually, it's been 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, so apologies to the listeners. We are back tonight, hopefully with a bang.
Inshallah, and we have, the people have been asking about us. Which is a nice surprise. It's always nice to kind of get that kind of response.
It is. The thing is as well, I mean, a lot's happened in the last 2 weeks.
A lot has happened. But before we go on there, before we talk about what we want to talk about, I want to talk about, it's Rabi al-Awwal, right?
Yes.
So this is the month in which Muhammad Sallallahu, the Prophet of Islam, according to Muslims, the best of creation, was born. And with that in mind, I just want to relay something I heard on the khutbah today, which I thought was quite pertinent to our conversation that we're going to have today. So the conversation we're looking at today is, I suppose, Islamophobia Britain, and we've covered this a few times, but in the light of Donald Trump retweeting, we had the hijab vow for primary schools and other things. So there was two things that actually came out in the khutbah today, and you were there, right?
I was, yeah.
So one was when the Prophet goes to Taif. So his mission in Makkah is not really going anywhere. He's been isolated for 3 years, and the Meccans don't really want to know. So he thinks, well, actually, let's go to Taif, the next major city, and he goes there and he tries to kind of call people to Islam or to his message, and they effectively get kids to stone him, and there he is, at the end of that, blood flowing through his body, sticking to his sandals, and so on and so forth, and it's the dua he makes, and I think that's the key thing here.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing, that the dua he makes when to cut a long story short, he says that, oh Allah, forgive my people. Yeah, so he doesn't say forgive these people or those people, those who have oppressed me. Forgive my people, for they do not know. And I thought that was really quite powerful. There's the Prophet. He's been abused not only by the Meccans, right? So I say his family, his wife has died. Khadija, his long-time support, his uncle who supported him has died, and he goes to invite other people to his side. He's not asking for money. He's not asking for anything. He's just saying, look, I have a message. Hear me out. If you like it, accept. If you don't like it, fair enough. We'll be on our way. But in the end, but as opposed to that, they stone him, and they really, and he's aristocrat. He's from a kind of a wealthy family. So that's not what you do. Even in any culture, you don't do that. But they do stone him, and he says, "Oh Allah, forgive my people." So he makes them personal. Forgive my people, for they do not know. They do not know what they're doing. So that was one thing, and I this stuff will come, I guess, in fray when we start to talk about the topic. And the other one was that when he says that every prophet has been given a dua, yeah,
Guaranteed.
a supplication, a guaranteed supplication.
Yeah.
So obviously they make supplications to God. God accepts them, but there's one that He absolutely will not reject, and every prophet has used up his supplication while here with his people, for that one reason or another. And the prophet said, look, there are many occasions when I could have used it up, but I tried to save it, and I have saved it for on the day of judgment, when everyone will need a supplication, and I will give that supplication not to, as the Imam put it, and put it most eloquently actually, not to the believers, not to the ones who have something to show for, but for the wretched, for my ummah. So everyone is ummah of the Prophet, after the Prophet, yeah. So for the ones who just didn't get it, or didn't actually, didn't get that kind of level to kind of qualify maybe for heaven, and it is for them, and that to me shows the greatness of the Messenger of God, and that's why I think to know him is to love him, and that's why we do love him, because these are just two examples, but even in these two examples, his compassion, his mercy outshines, and I think that holding those thoughts, we could probably go into the conversation and see it from that perspective. Because I know we joke about me banging on the tables,
sorry,
and getting passionate at times.
All I can say to our viewers and listeners around the world, just watch YouTube.
What do you do?
It's happened many times throughout the year.
Not so many times, but you
do
like
yourself
to highlight.
a disservice, brother.
Yeah, but we get passionate about
of course
topics we talk
yes.
about, and especially when they affect Muslims, because they, we get passionate when it affect anyone, human beings, right? But more so when they affect Muslims, because they seem to be the kicking boys today, and and Muslims are obviously we're Muslims, so we feel that kind of extra level of affinity. But taking these two examples, I think we have a different way of looking at these things. I think we need to kind of orientate that a bit more.
We do. I was with you there at the khutbah as well. It was certainly left its mark on me. It was an amazing account the Sheikh gave earlier on today.
Yeah.
And you're quite right. I mean, how much of a distant reality we live in now, where everybody's quick to point the finger,
yes.
and we have millions of people around the world who have got their beliefs about people they don't know nothing about. There's the level of ignorance now in society is it leaves one flabbergasted at the best of times.
Absolutely. I tell you what example that sticks into my mind is Abu Sufyan. Now, Abu Sufyan is the arch enemy of the Prophet,
Yeah.
He is going to war, he's fought in every battle, he's been to war with all the major battles, and he's been at the helm, he was the leader of the Quraysh, he was at the helm of the fighting the Prophet, and so on and so forth. And celebrating when they felt that they wounded Islam, and obviously commiserating themselves when they've been affected adversely by that. But the point is, he becomes Muslim. And if at the outset you said when he was standing on those battlefields, fighting the Muslims, killing the Muslims, fighting the Prophet, if you said he's going to become a Muslim, you'd be thinking. And that to me sounds a bit like, and we should pray for people to become Muslim. That to me sounds a bit like, our relationship with George Bush or Tony Blair or people like that. It's hard for us to say, to make dua and say, God guide them. It's tough because we've seen what they've done in the Iraq War. 500,000 people have died. Children are still being born with all sorts of issues because they poisoned the oil, the water wells, the water table with depleted uranium. It's tough.
It is because
to make that dua.
What you're saying there is a basic human level. You hold to account Well, not in their case, obviously. And I know we're going to talk about Ratko Mladic later on. But people like that, you hold them to account because these are the faces, these are the people, these are the butchers.
Yeah.
In his case, the butcher of Bosnia. Yeah. You know, and you are right. It is difficult on a human level to put your hands up and say, you know, God forgive these people, guide these people. Similarly to the white supremacists who went into that black church and he killed all those people. Yeah. Yet they came out and they said, well, we forgive you. You know, we pray to God. You know, to say, give you guidance. Yeah. That's another level, brother.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose for the listeners, you know, don't get us wrong. We believe in the idea that justice has to be done.
Yeah.
You know, so people should be held to account. They should be put on trial, and justice has to be done. But at the end of the day, just like Nelson Mandela said, you know, that we will not move forward as a nation if we keep looking back.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean,
we need to kind of,
true is
you know,
that?
the reconciliation committees that were set up. I mean, you know, whether they worked or not, that's a different matter. But the point is, the idea was to bring the victims and the perpetrators together and try and, you know, like I said, at that human level, try and get these resolutions done so that as a society we can move forward and we can kind of forgive. You know, maybe you won't forget. I mean, you're never going to forget somebody who's killed your child or raped your mother, or, you know, you're never going to really forget that. But the only way you can move forward and the only way society can move, because what's happened has happened. You know, however unfortunate it is to forgive, and that is good for the soul, you know.
I agree with you. I mean, obviously, you're now talking about, you know, it's a society issue, isn't it? I mean, for us as Britons, I would say Northern Ireland would be an example of that, you know, of where so many things have happened, and they had to sit around the table with the IRA. And thrash this out, and it was the only way. You have to speak to these people. You have to challenge the ideologies.
I mean, you know, it didn't work. The whole gagging, you know, Thatcher gagging people. You know, it didn't work. And what worked ultimately was, like you said, was the fact that people said, actually, let's come. You know, we're tired of this. You know, we need to come together. We need to think about it. You know, our grandchildren. You know, I'm sure that's what they were thinking about. You know, our grandchildren. We need to think about them. They can't be going through this cycle of violence and hate, which unfortunately is fueling a lot of the stuff in our society now.
Without doubt.
And that is down to the fact that we don't know, or we refuse to even accept the other, or even come to some middle ground to try and...
Do you think then, I mean, I know we're going to get into this, but do you think at the moment, especially in this country, we're lacking a visionary, a Mandela of our own, someone who can see into the future and get these people to sit around the table?
Yeah.
Try and work this, you know, work whatever issues we have. I mean, we're going to be talking about, I mean, the issue of 2017, without a doubt, has got to be Islamophobia. It's rampant, it's rife, it's overt, and now it's going into our schools, to our to primary schools. On the 19th of November this year, news broke of inspectors who are going to question primary school girls who wear hijab. I mean, when I saw this headline first, I was like, what? Yeah. And it didn't make any sense to me. And then you start looking into it, and, you know, lo and behold, you have Amanda Spielman, the head of Ofsted, and chief inspector of schools. And she said that the move was to tackle situations in which wearing a hijab, and I can't believe this, could be interpreted as sexualization. And I suppose from me and yourself and people in the community around the world, as Muslims, we're looking at it from a Muslim point of view. We're thinking, how on earth can a young child wearing a hijab be looked upon like that, or perceived a threat such as that? Just shocked.
I mean, it's an absurd position, and I think she's been berated for that, quite honestly. I mean, you know, there's been open letters, hundreds of people have written open letters berating her for her position, because it's unacceptable that you would take young children, you know, for whatever political angle that she's going for, you would, expose young children, you know, primary school kids.
And I want to just pick you up on that young. We're talking about 4, 5-year-olds. I mean, she went on to say, when most Islamic teaching requires headdress for girls only at the onset of puberty. Now, I get that. right? I understand that, but I mean to go and say, right, well, we need to go to the schools, and
I'm talking about 4 or 5 year olds.
That's what I'm saying. They don't know. I mean, they're still learning about life.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah,
you know, they're still trying to distinguish the difference between Play-Doh and sand. You know, I mean, well, what are they going to tell you about why they're wearing a headscarf? I mean,
most parents wouldn't. Quite honestly, a lot of them they wouldn't give a damn whether their kids wore, 4 or 5 year old wore a headscarf or not, because it's not, it doesn't entertain people's minds, that this idea that I must force my kid to. I mean, I don't know. I'm yet to come across somebody like that, and I'm sure Amanda Spielman hasn't come across anyone like that.
She says, right. To be fair to her, she says, I mean, this all happened following a meeting between Spielman and other campaigners against hijabs in schools.
Oh yeah, you get a couple of far right.
Well, I mean, in this instance, you have Amina Lone, co-director of Social Action and Research Foundation. Who, by the way, I felt she was being quoted everywhere.
Yeah.
It was almost as if Spielman was using her as like, well, we're going to use her as the, she's going to be the benchmark for authenticity of the process we're trying to put in place. She said, well, while respecting parents' choice to bring up their children according to their cultural norms, and we need an environment where primary school children, shouldn't be, wearing or should be expected to wear a hijab. I mean, I was like, what? She went on further to say, we would urge any parent or member of the public who has a concern about fundamentalist groups influence school policy wearing a hijab. 4 to 5 year olds.
Yeah. I mean, basically, it's an attempt at, whatever you want to do for whatever political or other reasons that you have. It's easy to just say, oh, it's to do with terrorism, extremism, or something along those lines, because it then people don't oppose it so much.
No, because immediately they think, oh, well, that's justifiable.
Yeah, because we're so socially engineered to accept that kind of excuse. And it's not acceptable, and clearly it's shown that people have come together, people rallied, and people have opposed this position, and kind of berated actually the Ofsted for making that position.
And I totally concur with them. What I will say though, however, this requirement, shall we say, has been issued in the wake of the Trojan horse scandal in 2014 in Birmingham. This is where this essentially stems from, where they want to be able to, they essentially said, all the schools are now required to teach and reflect fundamental British values. One of which is why our children shouldn't be wearing a hijab.
I didn't know that was a fundamental British value.
Nor did I.
I thought fundamental British value was acceptance, celebration, tolerance, and all those things. And really about the fact that people are, as a society, as a community, people need to live together, and we need to accept that people have different cultural and religious practices, and we respect that, and we celebrate that as a society. So if anyone was to come to me and say, well, actually wearing a hijab is against British values, I'd be saying, well, where are tell me what those British values are.
I agree with you.
That doesn't sound rational to me.
Of course it doesn't. This isn't rational.
Maybe she needs to be. Actually, somebody needs to teach her Amanda Spielman what British values are.
It'd be interesting to see her British values Magna Carta. That'd be interesting, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Well, I don't think one exists.
Of course it doesn't. But, the report further went on to say that this is highlighted in Christian, Islamic, and Jewish faith schools. Yeah, it's only the Islamic faith schools which are getting plastered all across the mainstream media. Well,
quite honestly, it's not even faith schools, because faith schools are kind of exempt from a lot. It's to do with the fact that if you're a child, if you're a child, I don't really write stuff on Twitter, but with this issue, I did write a few tweets, and one of them, which has been shared a few times,
not retweeted by the 45.
Sorry,
not retweeted by the 45th, yeah. President.
Okay.
I'm sure our listeners got that.
No idea. Anyway, the point being that, if if a child comes to school and says, well, I'm a vegetarian today because my mum's a vegetarian.
Yeah.
So I feel like, as children do, I want they look up to their parents, don't they? So, you'd be like, okay, fair enough, you wouldn't kind of send the Ofsted squad in to say, well, hang on a second, let's just see why you made that choice. Was it your own free will? Have you been, subjected to it, or pressured into it, or something along those lines? You don't hear that. Yeah, in this instance you do, and I don't understand why that is the case, because, I don't know. I mean, tell me, listeners, if you sort of want to get partake in this conversation that we're having, please do call in on 0173602 We'd love to hear from you about this.
What I will say, I mean, there was a lengthy statement from the Muslim Council of Britain's Secretary General Haroon Khan. The last element, which I thought is quite pertinent, which is that many British Muslims who choose to wear the headscarf have done extremely well in education and breaking glass ceilings. It's disappointing that this is becoming policy without even engaging with a diverse set of mainstream Muslim voices on the topic.
Yeah, but I mean, this idea of doing well is not because of headscarf.
Of course
or hijab.
not. Yeah,
but it's everything to do with the idea that women should be free, and they should be free to choose to wear what they want.
Yeah.
Firstly, secondly, our international laws protect. The ones that protect children protect the parents' right to raise their kids as they choose fit.
Yep.
And it's against human values for states to start to now step over their boundary into what is personal space and invading that personal space.
Unfortunately, the reality of the situation is this is going to inevitably have far-reaching consequences.
It already has. I
mean, essentially what we're saying now is that the hijab has no place in our primary schools.
Yeah, effectively, that's. I mean, this whole kind of conversation is saying that.
It's utterly ridiculous.
I mean, are we going to start saying to the Jewish people that they're not allowed to wear their kappas, and are we going to start saying to the Christian people they're not allowed to wear their crosses,
and the Sikh people not to wear the turbans?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, are we going to go across the board? Is that what we're doing? At least that might be understandable, under the secular or secularism, or extreme forms of secularism. I mean, that might be understandable, but here we're not saying that. We're saying actually we're only going to target the young Muslim 4 or 5-year-olds.
Yeah, and ask them,
subject them
all
to
these
this
questions.
kind of,
I mean, she did say, it's not going to be pressurised. All our Ofsted inspectors are ex-teachers and head teachers and things like that, and they will be tactful when they're asking a 4 and 5-year-old child, why are you wearing a hijab? Were you forced to wear a hijab? How long have you been wearing it? Do you wear it at home?
I wonder if she's got kids, and if she would be happy if her kids were subjected to this kind of scrutiny. I wonder if she's got a 4-year-old child, or a 5-year-old child, and if she was taken out of class, taken separately, and subjected to this kind of scrutiny, how she would feel. I
agree with you. I mean, this is going to have a significant mental health impact, I think, on these children. They're thinking, they will go home, start questioning it.
Yeah.
Oh, hold on, why are we wearing it? I mean, in some ways,
the point is all done under the guise of this idea of terrorism, extremism. Yeah. Already we know children are reporting the fact that they are, as young as 9, are reporting the fact that they're being bullied. Names are being called. One of them, a 15-year-old, said it got so bad that she wanted to harm herself. And there are children who are suffering because of media and the way it kind of creates these stories which have no resemblance to reality most of the time. And it's putting it out there into the public domain, which people don't live in bubbles, right? So they're picking it up, and young children are picking it up, and they're then going and just saying the same thing out there to their friends and fellow schoolmates.
I agree with you, and the famous saying, nobody's born to hate, nobody's born a racist. So and racism and hate starts at the grassroots.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to just pick up something that happened quite recently, very very close to home here in Peterborough. We have the FC Peterborough team here. I just want to add that to your local, to the young, so as they're going to go and approach these young children, ask them questions about the hijab, etc. We have, it's reported in the Peterborough Telegraph here, that there was an under-11 match when the opposition players, so under-11, brother, mimicked planes being crashed into buildings in an apparent reference to 9/11. I mean, these are under 11s. There was an under-10 match when a FC Peterborough junior player was punched in by an opposition team player, which led to a red card. Then the referee, the FC Peterborough players and the parents were then abused by the parents from the opposition club. These are young children. So we've got a situation where Ofsted isn't going and ask questions about a hijab and etc., etc. Now in a sporting competitive environment, we have children.
Yeah.
who are now behaving in this manner. So they're reinforcing a narrative potentially which they're having at home, or which they've seen an inspector coming in and saying, "Oh, why are you in a hijab?" and then putting all, joining all the dots together themselves. And in a competitive environment where the children are behaving in a manner, their parents are then doing the same.
Yeah, yeah.
It's shocking.
I mean, it's shocking. I mean, when you told me this, and I mean, I had heard it, but when parents are getting involved to kind of abuse young children with or taunting them with effectively racism and hate,
xenophobia,
it's disgusting, and this is a society we're creating, and and this is I mean, Trevor Cavanaugh, who put the article out there, that he said the Muslim problem, and we've only got 30 seconds to speak about that. But anyway, let's come back to that, because I want to pick up on that, the idea that this is the society that we're going to, because this is akin to what happened in 1930 Nazi Germany, when they were talking about the Jewish problem, and when they were the civil and legal rights of Jews were under question. I think the same thing's happening here, and we know where that led to.
I agree with you. I think I've got enough time. I just want to quote Brother Imtiaz. He's also one of our presenters. So he's a first team manager, and I quote him: "Every other week, one of our 11 to 12 teams report an incident of racial abuse. Most teams are good, and most matches pass without a problem, but it still happens far too often." That's damning.
Yeah.
And that's the reality of the situation. This is not acceptable.
It's not acceptable.
And it's right across the board.
In 2017 Britain, that's not acceptable.
And as we end the year, it doesn't seem like it's going to get any better.
Okay, hold that thought. Jazakallah khair. Please do come back, inshallah. We want to continue on with this conversation. Assalamu alaikum. See you soon.
Stay tuned to Salaam Radio after this short ad break.
Sadly, millions of orphans living in the poorest countries lack the necessary support for a healthy childhood. These children have to endure lives of hardship without the basic necessities that would help them to grow, to learn, to live. Let's show them that we do care. Let's brighten up their future. Call 0161 225 0225 or visit humanappeal.org.uk.
Do you like the idea of being a radio presenter? Have you got a great idea for a show? Why not get in touch with us? We are always looking for enthusiastic, committed and professional individuals to join our team of volunteer presenters. Send us an email to info@salamradio.co.uk and we'll be in touch. You could be on air sooner than you think.
Third world and developing countries are home to some of the most vulnerable children on the planet. Malnutrition, severe lack of medical aid and access to clean water are just some of the horrific challenges faced by orphans across Africa and Asia. Children of Adam, a Peterborough charity, need your help to bring aid to these orphans for just £25 a month. To sponsor an orphan or assist with other projects, please call 0300 321 0032 or visit www.childrenofadam.net.
Iqra Academy is the only Muslim girls' school in Cambridgeshire where your daughter will develop her knowledge of Islam and the national curriculum in a safe environment. Ofsted has judged the teaching and learning, leadership and management, pupil behaviour and personal development as good in June 2017. Iqra Academy's qualified staff teach in small classes, and the school is producing sports teams who have a track record of succeeding at national level. With reduced fees and a good rating 3 times from Ofsted, why not consider Iqra Academy for your daughter? Enroll now to avoid disappointment. Please contact 01733 331 433 or email admin@iqraacademy.org.uk.
The messenger of God, peace be upon him, said, God will say, Son of Adam, I fell ill, but you did not visit me. He will say, O Lord, and how could I have visited you? You are the Lord of the worlds. He will say, Did you not know that my so-and-so servant had fallen ill, and you did not visit him? Did you not know that had you visited him, you would have found me with him? Son of Adam, I have asked you for food, but you did not feed me. He will say, O Lord, how could I have fed you? You are the Lord of the worlds. He will say, my so-and-so servant asked you for food, and you did not feed him. Did you not know that had you fed him, you would surely have found that with me? Son of Adam, I have asked you to give me drink, but you did not give me. He will say, O Lord, how could I have given you to drink? You are the Lord of the worlds. He will say, my so-and-so servant asked you to give him drink, and you did not give him. Had you given him to drink, you would surely have found that with me.
Narrated by Abu Huraira in the collections of Muslim.
The blue sky is blue like blue bubble gum, but it
Broadcasting 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. This is Salaam Radio.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Welcome back to Let's Talk. Just before the break, we were talking about Islamophobic Britain. We were talking about where Britain's heading and all the Islamophobia that we're seeing. And you know, we're kind of being all Muslims in Britain are faced with, and we talked about the parents at these football games abusing young children, young as 9, right?
Yep.
Young as 9, and earlier on, actually forgot to mention, earlier on when we came on air, just before that, or today at least, a video has been posted on Twitter where a young Muslim girl, 19 years old, student, wearing hijab, wants to get some food, so goes into McDonald's, and the security guard stops her and says, you can't come in. And she's like, why? And he's like, well, you need to take your hijab off before you come in. Yeah. And she's like, well, you know, it just starts recording this, and she says, well, hang on a second, you know, what's this all about? And he's like, look, I'll let you in, you got to take your hijab off. And it was one English guy, I mean, God bless him, he's the one who said, look, you can't speak to her like that. You can't stop somebody from, just because they're wearing hijab, from coming in to have some food. And then the man, well, who looked like the manager, he just stood by, didn't really intervene, and kind of almost like agreed with the security guy, security guard. But I think the question is, I mean, although this was really, it's sad to see in Britain that we the media is whipping up this hate, and hysteria, that just every Joe Blogs is now taking upon themselves to break Muslims and actually attack Muslim women. These are cowards, because they don't. I mean, you don't hear so much about the guys, right? But you constantly, when you hear this, you hear them abusing Muslim women. But the problem is, and this is what we're talking about in the break, that it's all these silent bystanders.
Yeah.
The people just standing in the queue. Nobody standing up and saying, hang on a second, you can't do that. That's completely wrong. And that's where the danger lies.
Of course it is.
Because that's where, policies are passed and people become hate mongers. And you get what happened in Bosnia, in Bosnia and Kosovo. And even before that, what happened in Nazi Germany, what ended up being the Holocaust. That's what you end up getting when these people who are ordinarily are rational, sane, and probably liberal in most cases, just complete silent bystanders, and people need to stand up and be counted. And this is where I remember the hadith of the Prophet that he said that, and it puts it into perspective. You think, actually, what, that's quite, that he said, when you see something wrong, firstly, stop it with your hand. Try to stop it, try to prevent it physically if you have to. And if you can't do that, then speak out against it. And if you can't do that, for whatever reason, then at least feel it's wrong in your heart, and that's the lowest state of belief or faith.
Well, you've got the... I mean, I absolutely agree with you there. You've got the famous quote from Edmund Burke, haven't you? It just springs to mind. The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing.
That's right.
And this is so apparent in 2017 in Britain and across the world when you see these videos of, it's not just Muslim women, but just innocent people involved in whatever. It's the bystanders who do nothing.
Yes.
And in some instances, when they have done something, like you have the reports of those two guys in America, a woman in America was about to be attacked, and they've tried to stop this guy from attacking her, and he killed those two people, and they lost their lives. So there are good people in the world, but unfortunately there's many millions of us who aren't willing to stand up for something we are seeing in real time. You know, I mean, that could be us one day.
That's what, absolutely,
you know, and if we need to take a stand, if you believe something wrong is happening. And I appreciate in some situations people will say, well, you know, there was 20 guys and I couldn't do nothing and things like that. But if you were that person being terrorized and you saw somebody, you would only be thinking, you need to help me here.
Yeah, I mean, you hear a lot, you see a lot of these YouTube clips where you know, people who have been abused or in whatever way, and a lot of them would say, look, I was, you know, what really I felt betrayed, that all these people around me, not a single one stood up to my defense.
Yeah,
you know, and that is saddening, because that really is, I mean, how can a society be held together, jailed together? We have a social contract with one another that we will not harm you, and if you are being harmed, we will come to your defense. I mean, maybe we might not physically be able to do anything, but at least we will verbally say something to
absolutely.
say that, look, you know, you've got some support.
Yeah, and this isn't right. I mean, and you know, this ties in also with, you know, things of the past, which unfortunately in 2017 there's some justice have come. I mean, you know, it makes one think back to the 370 Dutch UN peacekeepers who looked on helplessly as the Serb forces separated men and boys to be shot in the Srebrenica massacre. And it's just it's a similar situation. All right, they were outnumbered, etc. But I mean, they were there on behalf of the UN, right? And the reason why I bring this story up as well is because in the last 2 weeks, when we haven't been here, as we mentioned earlier on, there's been a lot of things that have happened in the world, and one of which has been Ratko Mladic sentenced to life in prison for the Srebrenica genocide, after he was dragged out of court over his outburst when, you know, before his sentence he was screaming, "You are all liars and this is all lies."
I don't think he wasn't charged with genocide though. That's the thing. And
he was charged actually with 10 out of the 11 charges, and I think you are right. There was one major one he wasn't charged with.
The thing about genocide is that it would hold. I mean, here what we are seeing Serbia completely taken out of the picture. In its, you know, it was part and parcel of that brutality of Bosnia. It's been completely isolated and taken out of the picture, and only this person and his forces are being held accountable. And the term genocide is not being used because it would make Europe look that they looked on. They stood by while massacre, rape, murder, torture was taking place, and they stood by and watched it. This is the UN peacekeepers who were there, who ordered us not to engage, and that's disgusting. I do I mean, this 74-year-old woman, you know, is found guilty of essentially orchestrating this massacre. This is essentially an ethnic cleansing during Bosnia's 1955 war, which included the massacre of Srebrenica, and I must be pointed, this was Europe's worst atrocity since World War II. I mean, you know, this idea that lest we forget, I mean, every year, Santa, we lay, lest we forget, yet we have forgotten, the lessons, we didn't learn the lessons of the Second World War, we didn't learn the lessons. You allow hate to fester, you promote hate in society, it ends up having consequences, and those consequences are millions of people die. We're not just talking about the Holocaust and the Jewish people, we're talking about millions of Russians who were allowed to die. We're talking about people, other ethnic minorities who were also allowed. We're talking about hate takes such a life of its own that it sucks people in and decimates society and community. It results in the slaughter of 8,000 Muslim men and boys in Srebrenica, and the siege of the Bosnian camp in Sarajevo, in which 10,000 civilians died. This is what hate does. Hate leads to these heinous crimes. You know, the judge, he described it as, and I quote, the crimes committed rank among the most heinous known to humankind and include genocide and extermination as a crime against humanity. Yeah, I mean, this is serious. I mean, it's, you know, obviously the time has gone on. I agree with you. When do we go back and have remember this moment? We don't know. It never, I do, we have this, let's forget, we have all these, I do that.
if things like the Bosnia, what happened in Bosnia, that massacre, has been forgotten about. Yeah, I mean, the idea that let's forget is that we don't want to, we want to learn lessons from hate and what hate does. Yeah, I mean, we haven't learned lessons from hate and what hate does. I mean, we had the Holocaust in Bosnia, you know, where Muslim Bosnian people were being massacred by Serbs, yeah, and Croats as well. And then, you know, we had Kosovo where people were being massacred. We had, you know, we want to other conflicts at the time, Somali murders, you know, we had Iraq War, the first Iraq War, the second one. I mean, the point is we keep on feeding this frenzy of hate, we keep on supplying arms, and we talk about the five members of the Security Council, which were one of them, are the biggest supplier of arms in the world, and today we are supplying arms to Saudi Arabia, which is causing chaos and massacring people in Yemen. Yet we are not willing to, we are still willing to supply them arms, and we're still doing that. We are not stopping out what's happening in Burma, in Niger. We were trained in the people in the Burmese army. And the point is that we are not learning any lessons. On the contrary, we are doing the same thing year after year, decade after decade, irrespective of the cost of the life that's the impact that is having on the society of the people. Yeah, and the legacy of this particular atrocity is, in Bosnia and Herzegovina, the two communities remain sharply divided. I mean, it's this legacy of these two people who have lived together, neighbours, intermarried, of gone. They don't look at each other. Even to today, 2017, these didn't know what happened. This is what hate does. And you know, I remember listening to a Bosnian guy who said that he lived with Croats and Serbs. They intermarried. You know, his neighbours, they intermarried. You know, they hung out together and laughed each other. But yeah, when the Serbs were spreading their message of hate, then suddenly these guys were the ones saying, "Oh, next door is a Muslim guy. Kill him." They're the same guys that have been decades. They've been intermarried. They've got children. They've got grandchildren, and they're saying, "Oh, go to next." And that's the fear. The fear is our neighbours today, who are friends of ours, who we know, they know us, we know them. We reach out to them. What will it take? And you know, lessons from Nazi Germany tell us it doesn't take a lot. Lessons from Bosnia tell us it doesn't take a lot. Lessons from Kosovo tell us it does not take a lot to get them to turn against their neighbours. Yeah. If they feel that they, you know, the mob mentality. I agree. And we're talking about lifelong things here. We're talking about lifelong things. I mean, although in the 70s, 64.1% of BNP members said that they may have resorted to violence, yeah, to protect, quote-unquote, their country, you know, against Muslims. Yeah, 82% of the British Muslims feel that they're loyal to the UK, 61%. Islam is compatible with Islam. I mean, we're talking about the stats today. And they are not looking at there are 2 million Muslims, 5% of the British population is Muslim. Yeah, if you ask people, if there was a study done, they'd probably think it's 20%. I agree with you. It's fascinating. It's like, oh, the Muslims will take over, but we can actually look at the number 95% of this going to be non-Muslim. Exactly. I mean, how is that even possible? It's illogical. It's illogical. But it's all this is driven by hate, it is driven by racism, yes, it's driven by xenophobia. I mean, the Trojan War hoax, or, you know, you mentioned but I was saying that he wrote this article in The Sun, and with the idea that he was stating the Muslim problem, which harkens back to the idea the debates that were happening around the Jewish problem, where the civil legal rights of Jews and minority community were under threat and were being questioned, which, you know, went on what ultimately happened. You know, people discussed by the hundreds of cross-party politicians wrote to Tony Gallagher, the editor of Sun, saying that they're truly outraged by the Clinton victory in this article. And yet this guy is being cleared by IPSO. Yes, he sits on the board of IPSO. He sits on the board of IPSO. And at one point he said, he said about Fatima Mali, remember when he attacked her. So he's making all these articles, anti-Muslim, hate articles, yet he's still sitting on the board. So how can that happen? If we're serious about tackling hate, we're serious about tackling racism, we're serious about tackling xenophobia in this country, we're serious about bringing communities together and making them work together, we need to get people like Zach from IPSO, or an anti-Zach from people, because the people like these are the ones that are tackling the hate that is fueling us. If I was solidified the fact that there is no credibility to our organisation. Absolutely. It's as simple as that. And then, meanwhile, where are we now? 48 hours ago, we've got the world's most powerful man also decided that he should have the latest in his Islamophobic presidency. Then goes ahead. So we've got all this going on at the same time, and he then goes and he does the unbelievable to his 40 million followers, retweets Britain First, a fascist, racist organisation who is known for storming budgets, who is known for holding rallies, and threatening behaviour, etc., where their leader posts 3 videos, which I may add have been discredited. Deputy leader, and all I can see from this side of the pond is Trump is essentially embracing the far right. And why he's doing that, he leaves a huge stain now on the history of the democratic ideals of the United States. When you look at some of the presidents they've had in the past, and you listen to some of their rallying cries, for example, Herbert Hoover, great rallying cry from conservatism in New York in October 1928, said, "The march of progress founded on ordered liberty, freedom, and equal opportunity to the individual." Trump is so far away from the people like the great Martin Luther King, and his dream, and not just that, you have many others, who you could look back in history. I mean, Roosevelt, for example, he was one of these presidents who was forward thinking. He knew that we needed to stop wars, he knew we needed to talk to people, we needed to move forward again, forget the isolation, come out, and we've got this president who hasn't done his retweets. He's caused an international stir, and then after he's done that, and there's been this, and I have to describe it earlier, an epic backlash from around the world, including our great Prime Minister Theresa May, and she's rebuked him in public, right? We have his press secretary, who stands there in front of the world and says, even if these videos are fake, they're threatening. Are we in it? I mean, which reality are we in? And then he then has the audacity, after all this happens, and she says what he did was wrong, Theresa May, he then tells her to mind her own business and get on the job, and think about the terror in the United Kingdom. Well, let me tell you something, Trump. More people died in the last day of shooting than anybody has died in terrorism in the United Kingdom. You tell me.
Yeah.
No, you're right. Well, I don't know about the war that we've had in the last 30 years. And we talk about the special relationship, and Theresa May did allude to that in Jordan, but she also said, yes, we do have a special relationship, but that shouldn't deter me from when the space is paid. And we have a situation right now where, and don't forget as well, Trump is the same person when he was interviewed in 2016 on, I think it was leading up to his presidential campaign, where he was asked, do you think America has an Islam problem or something like that, a word to that effect, and he said, yeah, I think Islam hates us. the famous speech. So this person comes into power. Trying to distinguish the difference between the two of, moderate Muslims and far-right Muslims, and he was saying, it's difficult to tell the difference between the two. And then he advocated, before he came to power, when he was on his presidential march, he said, well, we're going to stop Muslims coming in. He tried his best to, there was talk of him trying to close mosques, and then there was going to be a Muslim database, so he was able to tell the difference between he was able to tell the difference then. Well, of course, and when they gave him a $350 million check, it's all fake. It's all fake. I mean, Trump himself is fake, and I mean, people I think people vote for him, hate him. Yeah, here's the thing, right, that's one element where you can say it's fake. But we're talking about the leader of the free world, the most powerful person. But you know what I mean? That's what that president, that seat, that title goes with. Most powerful man on the planet. He has influence, brother. Yeah. And then the presidency of the United States of America has influence, and unfortunately he happens to be the person in the seat at the moment. Okay, and he is retweeting very first, and you just think, wow, it's clutching at all. And since he's done that, the thing is, it's had the opposite effect to what we want now. Breakfast is now saying, who nominated you? I mean, you listen to American commentators like, who is this organization? Now their membership is starting to increase. Because they say, oh, the power, right, okay, well, that's the power endorsement. I mean, this is the same guy, when he was mentioning, blue chip companies, when he was naming and shaming them for having the jobs abroad, for not paying attention, whatever, they're losing millions in the stock index. It's having the same effect now by him peddling his escape. Well, at the end of the day, I think, what can I say? I mean, he still thinks that it's going to work for him. I mean, he's got a lot of issues around the world which the United States needs to deal with. And this is a way of manipulating that kind of focus on those issues. And saying, well, actually, look at me, I'll look at my tweet. I'm going to retweet JF, for instance, tweet who incidentally was charged actually with threatening and using insulting words and hating. So that's my point. I think this is also important to go back to this other element that happened in the UK. Is when the terrorist attack happened in London. He didn't express his solidarity with the mayor of City Khan, but he instead attacked him. Yeah. He attacked because he's Muslim. Yeah. I mean, Trump is what we've got here since he's come to power is a man who's hell-bent on changing the fundamental laws of the United States of America upon entry to the United States of America, for having a database against Muslims, for calling Islam evil, it's not compatible with us. Oh, well, it's not Muslims, it's not Muslims, it's Islam. But having to go to Muslim countries and sign up deals worth billions and billions of dollars. Yeah. And obviously every time you've been into the Middle East, or is there some sort of conversation with somebody in the Middle East, we've had a ramp up of chaos around the Middle East. I mean, this is everybody goes there, or has some conversation with somebody, something outrageous happens. So, and I mean, you can say this was the first time, but second, third time you start thinking, it's like, what's going on? You're right. I mean, at the end of the day, Trump, he became president because of peddling hate. He is president by peddling hate, and he feels that's his safety net. That's where he likes to be, because that's what's got him elected. And so the danger really is the society in the United States, where the society is kind of feeding him and feeding him that narrative. It is. And the other one, I agree with you, he's doing it brazenly, he's doing it often, and such, racially and religiously charged, manner. Like you just said, it just fosters division in America. Yeah. It fosters division internationally, and it has a staggeringly negative effect on America. And this is the leader of the free world. Yeah. And all this is all happening at the same time. And when we've got the Pope, You know, we get on it, and then towards the end of the show, we have the Pope who goes on his visit. He's on his tour of the East this week, and he went to Myanmar. And when he arrived there, I think they must have noticed as well, he did prayers for many people before he went there. He was named the Masculine, etc., etc. And there was really, you know, I hope, I'm sure millions of people around the world hopes that on a moral level, he was going to go there and he was going to say, you know, he was going to say, this is wrong to the powers that be in Myanmar. Yet he was told on arrival that if you use the term Rohingya, not only will you then cast in more issues on the Rohingya people, but also your Catholic minority. So he didn't use that moment when he sat next to the de facto leader of the country and the military leaders and exposed the truth. Yeah. And it was really shocking for me.
I think that's the biggest, that's the question is that people like the Pope and others to really take a good platform and say it as it is. And unless we start to do that, unless people start calling these people out, nothing will change.
Before you go, I think it's important to stress he did today when he was in Bangladesh. Use the term Rohingya. Okay. Before you go off there, brother, I just want to say it's been an amazing year working with you on the show. So you have a wonderful break.
I'm back.
It's just a shame right here. You can go on.
But before we go, I just want to kind of talk about one event that's happening tomorrow, Saturday the 2nd of December, which is tomorrow, to know Muhammad and it's a glass park between 6 and 8 p.m. It's a journey with the life of the letters topic, and it's going to cover 4 key areas of his life, so you know, we need to make time to come and show us like I have listening to sisters. Assalamu alaikum.
Private self-storage provides secure and tailored facilities